Okay, now we're going to take a slight detour and look at a couple of functions. Okay, one is from Python, base Python, and the second one is from NumPy. And these functions are range function, okay, range, and the reason why we're going to go through range function is to illustrate NumPy concepts. I'm going to generate random data to show you how to do stuff. So we're going to use this range function. So it's not, range function by itself is not what we are trying to figure out here. We're going to look at range function so that we can generate data that we can then use in the examples in NumPy. Okay. And it's also useful in other places, but it is kind of an incidental function that we're going to use. You know, range syntax is it has three numbers that we pass: start number, stop, and then step. Okay, step is optional. If you don't specify step, step is one. It is like in Excel, you start off with, say, number 1 and 2, and then you drag and you get a series of numbers, right? So that's what range does. Okay. But the difference is in range, when you use the range, it doesn't generate the numbers. It just saves the starting point, ending point, and the step. And when you use it, that's when the numbers are generated. So range function creates what is called a range object. So it has all the information needed to expand that into whatever number series that you want. Okay? So start, stop, and then step. Step is optional. So here is an example. So 5, 25, and 3. So you start with 5, and it will, and the start is inclusive, stop is non-inclusive. So it's going to stop before 25. So the largest number possible, not including 25, is where it will stop. Okay? So when you run this, this is what you get. You get a range object. You don't get all the numbers. It just tells you, okay, this is where I'm going to start. This is the ending point, non-inclusive. This is the step, and I know what to do when you use it. When you use it, then I will expand it and get all the numbers for you. So here, all right. Now when you unpack, so you do the same thing, but then you use that as an input to a tuple function. So the tuple function is now going to, start the range object. It's going to trigger the range object to work through the numbers. And it will get back and it will create a tuple for you. So here it starts with 5 in increment of 3, and it will stop short of 25. The largest number below 25. Okay? And here, of course, it will tuple. So there are two examples here where you make the range object start and expand all the values. And there are, or you can use a for loop. If you use the range object in a for loop, that will also trigger the range object to, to manifest those numbers. And you can have negative step as well. So if you have negative step, then your start number has to be larger than the stop number because you're now going down. You're decreasing from a larger number to a smaller number with a negative step. Okay? So the start value should be larger. So there it is. Okay. So now start from 30, go down, and 10 not inclusive. So a number that is before 10, meaning larger than 10 in this case. Okay. If you use the step of -2, the next number will be 10. So 10 is non-inclusive, so it stops with 12. Now you can actually, the stop number, you can use the range function with just one number. If you give only one number, if you pass two numbers, then first number is start, second number is stop, and the step which you did not specify, the default is 1. If you specify a step, then that step will be used. Now, if you use only one number, okay, range 10, okay, then start is, it starts with 0, so start will be set to 0, step is 1, and the number that you pass, that will be the stop number, which is non-inclusive. Okay, so if you just say one number, range 10, so it's going to, and then of course I have to use the list to see what those numbers are. So you start with 0, steps of 1, and it will end short of the given number 10. Now range object can be used to the loop. The loop will trigger the range object to manifest all those numbers. So here I'm saving the range object 525.3 into an object name, a variable name that I gave. Okay, you can make up any name you want, RNG. And when I use RNG in a for loop and print that I, okay, so this range will now expand to what it is supposed to be, and it's going to print all those numbers. So you can use a range object in a for loop. So you can use it in enumerate as well. Okay, so I will be the index, V will be the value, and there you go. Okay. Now let's look at 3 questions. Okay, set up a range object that can produce this list. So you need to, so if you do simply range, it's going to only give you the range object. Okay, and we need to expand that. So let's do a list around it so we can see what's inside. So now the question is, what should we put in here? Okay, so what do we start with? Okay, now, step is not 1 here, right? Step is not 1, therefore we have to include step at the end. So which means you have to, you can't pass just one number, you can't pass just 2 numbers. Okay, either of those 2 cases, step will be assumed to be 1. Right, so we have to pass 3 numbers now. Right? Alright. So starting number, okay, remember starting number is inclusive, so starting number is whatever the first number is, that's going to be the starting number. Starting number is inclusive. Okay. Now next is ending number, and then we have step. Now step is easy, step is 0, 5, 10, 15, so step is 5. Now the question is, what should be the ending number? Okay. Now if we put 15, then what will happen? 15, the ending number that we specify in the range is non-inclusive. So it's going to stop before 15. 15 will not get printed out. So we have to put a number that is greater than 15. And you can put any number greater than 15 actually. Okay. So here if we put 16, that will do. Okay. You can go up to 20, it still give you 15. Okay. So any number from 16 through 20 will work to get that series. Okay? That good, everybody? Good. Okay, let's look at the next one. So once again, we're going to put the range inside a list so we can open the range and then see what those numbers are. Okay, otherwise, you'll only get the range object. Right? Now you see that this one is going down. Right? So a step has to be a negative number. And we know the starting number is 20. Starting number is inclusive, so it's going to be 20 and the step is minus 3. 20 to 17, 17 to 14, 14 to 11, so step is minus 3. So what should be the end point now? Remember, this is negative, so we are going down from 20 down, down, down. So we can't have 11 because if we put 11 here, 11 will not be included in the range because it is non-inclusive. So it has to be a number greater than 11 or smaller than 11? Smaller than 11. It has to be like, it can be 10, right? And you can go down, can be 10, it can be 9, it can be 8, but not 7. If you put 7, then 8 will get included. Okay? Is that good, everybody? Okay. So now, that question is, we want to iterate over this. It's a little bit involved. Iterate over a range of object, iterate over a range object, range 6, and find the sum of the index times 2 plus the square of the value of each element iterated on. Well, so we want a range object, range 6. Okay. And we want to iterate over that. So for I in range 6. That's going to, when you use the range object in the for loop, then the range object will get exploded out. Okay. So now you then iterate over that series of numbers. Okay. So then we close. So that's our loop. What are we supposed to do? So iterate over the range object and find the sum of index times 2 plus the square of the value of each element. Okay. So here the index and the value are the same. So if the index and the values were different, then you have to use enumerate. So you get the index and then you will get the value. But here the index and the value are the same. So it's like range 6 is going to give you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to iterate over, and we are supposed to do what? Index plus, so it's each value, suppose V is, or I is the value, right? So I times 2, and then we want to add each element, square of each element. So each time, so you're going to get the index, and here because it's range one number, so the index number and the value are both going to be the same. Okay. Otherwise, we have to use enumerate. So enumerate will then give you index separately, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and then the value will be the value occupied by each index position. So we don't have to use enumerate here because the index and the value are one and the same thing. Okay. Now we want to sum this. We have to, we are trying to iterate over and keep accumulating this as we iterate over. So we have to now start with an initial value for the accumulated sum. So we have to start with sum equal to 0 at the top. That should be outside the for loop. So we set sum equal to 0, so it's now an empty vessel into which we want to keep adding that, right? So the accumulation here is sum, what is the operator? Plus equal to. Plus equal to, then I times 2 plus I squared. Okay? And then now you can, instead of using range 6 directly here in the for loop, you can save range 6 into a variable name and use that variable name in the for loop too. You can do it that way also. So now I'll show you. So we can, I'm going to copy this cell and paste it right below it. Okay. Copy cells and then paste below. Okay. So now I'm going to say RNGQ3, range for question 3, is range 6. In that case, then I use RNGQ3, then that will do the same thing. Now this one is more concise. First version is more concise. Unless there is any good reason why you want to save that as a separate object, you want to use the first version. If there is a good reason to have the range saved, then you use the second version. Second version is only if there is a need for it. Otherwise, you would use the first version. Okay? Good. Any questions?